I got home from my trip a full day earlier than expected. The meeting in Phoenix had ended ahead of schedule, less drama than I anticipated, and instead of wasting time scrolling through hotel TV channels and eating overpriced room service, I took the earliest flight home. Something about the quiet hum of being back on my own turf felt grounding. I missed my bed. I missed my dog. And I missed my wife. Or at least, I thought I did. It was around 6:30 p.m. when I stepped through the front door. The air inside smelled faintly of vanilla candles and fabric softener, familiar, warm. I dropped my duffel near the coat rack and paused to take in the stillness. No music, no TV. Just the muffled ticking of the kitchen clock. That's when I noticed her phone. It was lying on the hallway table, screen still glowing. The lock screen was wide open, no password prompt, no facial recognition delay. Almost like she had walked away mid-text. Notifications peppered the display, but one stuck out like a knife in the gut. Brandon's speech balloon. Last night was risky, but worth its smirking face. I froze. At first, I didn't even feel angry. Just confused. Then a dull pressure started building behind my eyes. Brandon? I didn't know any Brandon. Not one Ashley had ever mentioned. And the emoji god, the emoji. That little smirk at the end was mocking me. My brain scrambled to rationalize. Maybe it was a coworker, a joke. Maybe I was being paranoid. But it didn't feel like a joke. Just then, I heard footsteps. Ashley appeared at the far end of the hallway, hair damp from a shower, a bathrobe cinched around her waist. She stopped cold the second she saw where I was standing and what I was looking at. Hey, she said quickly, too quickly. Her voice cracked like a vinyl record skipping. You're home early. I didn't respond right away. I was still staring at the message, feeling like the ground under me had shifted. Then, in a blur, she closed the distance and snatched the phone off the table. Seriously, Jason, she snapped, clutching it against her chest like I'd just tried to steal it. You're reading my texts now? I didn't touch anything, I said, hands up. Your phone was just sitting there. Unlocked. I nodded. Her eyebrows **t up. Okay, but still. That's private. You don't go through someone's messages. It lit up, I said calmly. I just glanced at it. She scoffed. Glanced? Sounds more like snooping. There was a beat of silence. I didn't even open it, I repeated. Ashley's posture changed. Her shoulders dropped and she tried to laugh, tried to turn it into something small and ridiculous. It's Brandon from college, she said, brushing past me like I was being dramatic. We've been catching up. He's a goofball. That's just how he jokes. Right? She turned, flashing a tight smile. Come on. You don't really think I'd be doing anything shady, do you? I didn't answer. I didn't trust my voice. My heart was thudding in my chest, and I hated how I felt, how unsure I suddenly was of someone I'd spent the last 8 years trusting with everything. Ashley noticed the hesitation. Her eyes narrowed. You're serious, she said, crossing her arms. You think something's going on. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. She exhaled sharply, pacing toward the kitchen. You disappear for 4 days and come home suspicious of me? That's rich. I didn't disappear. I told you the schedule. You knew when I'd be back. Well, it's still weird to come home early and start making accusations. I'm not making accusations. I saw a message. That's it. She turned, gripping the edge of the counter. You're blowing this way out of proportion. Maybe, I said. Maybe not. The words hung there. Heavy. Charged. I hated how calm I sounded. Like I was tiptoeing around a landmine. Ashley rolled her eyes and grabbed a glass from the cabinet. Look, Brandon and I were part of the same research project back in school. We reconnected on Facebook. He's harmless. Married. 2 kids. I didn't push. I didn't ask why she never mentioned him before, or why a harmless, married guy would send a message like that. Instead, I nodded. Okay. Okay? She asked, glancing at me with suspicion. Yeah. Let's just forget it. That seemed to take the wind out of her. She stood there for a second, blinking like she didn't expect me to drop it. But I wasn't dropping it. I was shelving it. Quietly filing it away under the growing list of things that didn't sit right. I went upstairs, unpacked my bag, and tried to settle into being home again. Ashley didn't follow. She stayed in the kitchen on her phone, whispering. I didn't ask who she was texting. That night, as we climbed into bed, I tried to look at her the same way I used to. I tried to believe that everything she'd said was true, that I was being paranoid, that I was tired and stressed from work and had let my imagination run wild. But when she leaned over to kiss me goodnight, her lips didn't feel familiar. I stared at the ceiling long after she fell asleep beside me. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I laid there with my eyes open, the room dimly lit by the glow of the hallway light that filtered through the cracked door. Ashley was beside me, her breathing steady, deep, completely undisturbed. But my mind was anything but calm. Every time I closed my eyes, that message flashed in my head like a neon sign. Last night was risky, but worth it. The words gnawed at me, looping endlessly until they became a chant. I stared up at the ceiling, remembering how things used to be between us. How Ashley used to pull me closer at night, not roll away the second the lights went off. How she used to fall asleep with her hand on my chest, her wedding ring cold against my skin. Now, we were just two bodies sharing a bed, close in space, miles apart in everything else. The thing is, this wasn't entirely out of nowhere. Not really. Over the last few months, there had been signs. Subtle at first. Changes I chalked up to stress or the natural drift that sometimes happens in long relationships. But in hindsight, they were warnings. Flashing red lights I chose to ignore. Her wardrobe was the first thing I noticed. Ashley had always had a good sense of style, but lately it was different. Bolder. Riskier. Dresses she wouldn't have worn before. Shorter skirts. Tops that dipped lower than she used to be comfortable with. At first, I didn't say anything because, honestly, she looked good. Beautiful, even. I figured maybe she just wanted to feel confident again, which I supported. But then the makeup routine changed. More contouring, false lashes, lipsticks that were suddenly bold reds and deep berries when she used to stick with neutrals. Then there were the girls' nights. They started happening more often. Once every couple months turned into once a week. I never tried to stop her. I'm not that guy. But she always came home late and later still. The first few times I waited up. Then I stopped. What was the point? She usually walked in just before 2 a.m., claiming they lost track of time. Once or twice, she came home smelling like alcohol and a faint cologne I didn't recognize. I asked her once, offhand, "You guys hug a lot at these things?" She laughed and said it must have rubbed off in the club or from the Uber driver. I let it go. That was mistake number 1. Mistake number 2 was ignoring the emotional distance. Ashley started giving me one-word answers in conversations. Her tone had changed subtly, but enough that I noticed. More dismissive, less engaged. The eye contact we used to have during dinner was gone, replaced by her scrolling through her phone under the table, half listening to whatever I was saying. She stopped asking how my day was. She stopped noticing when I came home stressed or when I stayed late at the office to take extra shifts so we could finally knock out that credit card debt. It wasn't just detachment. It was deliberate. She'd changed the passcodes on her devices too. At some point, her phone, which used to be unlocked on the kitchen counter, became a private vault. Notifications silenced. Face down always. She even started taking it into the bathroom with her, something she never used to do. Once, I asked for the Wi-Fi password again when my laptop kicked me off, and she hesitated. Actually hesitated. Then rattled it off like she was annoyed. But maybe the most obvious thing, the most damning thing in hindsight was that mark. 3 weeks ago, she came back from one of those girls' nights with a red bruise on her neck. She tried to hide it under makeup, but I noticed. Of course I noticed. When I asked, she laughed and said it was a curling iron burn. Said she was rushing to get ready and nicked herself. I wanted to believe her. God, I really wanted to believe her. So I did. I nodded and smiled and even joked about how dangerous getting glam could be. But that night, when I kissed her neck, she flinched. She never used to flinch. And yet, through all of that, I kept convincing myself it was in my head. That I was being dramatic, overprotective. That the distance between us was just a phase. But after seeing that message on her phone, everything snapped into place. The lies, the secrecy, the emotional disconnect. I didn't have evidence, not yet, but the pattern was undeniable. The signs were no longer subtle. They were screaming. The next morning, Ashley acted like nothing was wrong. She kissed me on the cheek, made coffee, hummed while scrolling through her phone. I sat across from her at the table, watching her laugh at something on Instagram, and all I could think was how well she could pretend. Her entire demeanor had become an act. And I wondered, how long had she been rehearsing? Later that day, I went for a drive. Just needed air. I turned off my phone, rolled down the windows, and let the wind hit my face as I took the long route out toward the lake. That drive had always been my way to clear my head. It gave me space to think, to sort out feelings that didn't have words yet. I thought about the time we danced barefoot in the kitchen after getting caught in the rain. About the weekend we spent building furniture for the guest room and ended up in a pile of half-assembled IKEA parts, laughing until our stomachs hurt. I thought about the way she used to look at me, like I was her whole world, and I realized something that hurt worse than any message ever could. That look had been gone for a long time. When I came back home, she was in the living room watching a show, legs curled up under her. She looked over at me, smiling like everything was fine. And that smile, it wasn't real. Not anymore. I could see the cracks in it. And maybe, just maybe, she knew that I saw them too. But I didn't say anything. I walked over, leaned down, and kissed the top of her head. "Everything okay?" she asked. I nodded. "Yeah, just tired." She went back to her show, and I went back to pretending. A week passed. I didn't confront her, didn't snoop, didn't explode. I played my part like a pro husband of the year. I cooked dinner. I washed the car. I asked about her day with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. Meanwhile, I was watching quietly, methodically. It's funny how silence can speak louder than words. How you start noticing every twitch, every misplaced sigh, every time she hesitates before speaking. Ashley was still smiling, still kissing me goodnight, still playing her part. But I saw the cracks widening. She was careful now, extra careful. Her phone never left her side. Even in the shower, I'd hear it buzz on the counter, and seconds later, the bathroom door would open, steam rolling out as she grabbed it with dripping fingers. Her laptop had a new password. Her smartwatch stayed on even while sleeping. But people forget things. Or maybe it was karma. That Friday night, she claimed she had a late meeting. Something about end-of-quarter reports and working through dinner. I didn't flinch, just nodded, said, "Of course, babe," and watched her leave in a tight black dress I hadn't seen before. She said it was new. For work, right? Once the door closed, I waited a full 5 minutes before walking over to the office. There, tucked in the drawer next to the charger station, was a tablet. An old one, technically hers but forgotten. I powered it up, hoping she hadn't reset the settings. She hadn't. The cloud account was still synced. Her phone photos, hundreds of them, began downloading in real time. And there they were. The first image hit like a punch to the chest. Ashley, in that black dress, standing in front of a hotel bathroom mirror. Lips puckered, hand on hip, captioned, "For you, be winking face." I scrolled. More pictures. A suite, a bottle of wine. A man, tall, dark hair, smug smile. Posing behind her in one, arms around her waist. In another, they were at a bar laughing over cocktails. Then came the hotel bed, disheveled sheets, her legs visible, resting on his lap as he smirked at the camera. Photo after photo, proof, unmistakable. I stared at the screen, heart thudding in my ears. Not rage, not sorrow, just clarity. The metadata confirmed everything, timestamps, locations. Each one geotagged. Downtown, the Roosevelt. Friday nights, the same ones she claimed she was working late. I copied everything. Saved each photo, each screenshot *T, each caption. I even downloaded the metadata files. I was surgical, clinical, detached. When I finished, I shut the tablet down and placed it back in the drawer like nothing had happened. Then I sat in the dark, listening to the clock tick. Around midnight, Ashley returned. Her makeup was slightly smudged. She looked flushed, energized. "Meeting ran late," she said, slipping off her heels. "I'm exhausted." I nodded, kissed her on the forehead, and told her she should get some sleep. She smiled. She had no idea. I lay in bed beside her that night, wide awake, her breathing rhythmic as she slept. I wasn't heartbroken anymore. I wasn't even angry. I was numb. A cold, mechanical part of me had taken over. The part that protects you when your world starts caving in. The part that starts building walls when the foundation beneath you cracks open. In the morning, she was chipper. Made eggs. played music, wore a hoodie I hadn't seen in months, and danced barefoot in the kitchen like things were perfect. I drank my coffee, watching her like a stranger. After she left, I pulled up the files again. This time, I examined every detail. The timestamp on the bar photo matched the credit card alert from 2 weekends ago. The one she said was a team dinner. The outfit she wore in the hotel selfie? She told me it was for a bachelorette party. The man, Brandon, he appeared in 9 photos, always close, always smiling. And her eyes. In every photo with him, they sparkled. That sparkle used to be mine. I spent that weekend preparing. I didn't delete the files. I organized them, labeled them, created a drive with restricted access, and uploaded everything. Then I printed the most damning ones and slid them into an envelope which I tucked in the back of my briefcase. It felt surgical. I wasn't reacting. I was planning. That night, she suggested we take a weekend trip together soon. Maybe the mountains. She said it like nothing was wrong, like we hadn't been drifting in silence for months. I said sure. We could use a getaway. She leaned her head on my shoulder. I didn't move. The next morning, I called a friend, James, whose sister was a family law attorney. I told him I needed a name. I didn't explain. He didn't ask. That Monday, I walked into a sleek office downtown with the envelope under my arm and a folder of evidence in my hand. I'm not here to start a war, I told the attorney. I'm here to finish something with clarity and proof. She looked through the files silently, flipping pages, scrolling through images, reading metadata. You have everything you need, she said simply. This is airtight. I nodded. This won't be messy if you don't want it to be, she added. But you'll need to act soon. Before she realizes you know. I plan to. She gave me a nod that was almost sympathetic. When trust is gone, all that's left is process. That night, Ashley made pasta and lit candles. Some playlist I didn't recognize played on the Bluetooth speaker. Romantic. Soft. It felt like a performance. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was just muscle memory. But I smiled through it. Ate dinner. Made conversation. She didn't suspect a thing. And why would she? She thought she was smarter than me. That her little secret life existed in a vacuum. That I was the fool who still thought she was working late while she was wrapped around another man in a hotel bed. But I wasn't a fool anymore. I was patient. I was prepared. And I was almost ready. The following morning, I stood in front of the mirror, shaving with slow, deliberate strokes. Ashley was still asleep. Her hair spilled across the pillow, peaceful as ever. If you didn't know better, you'd think we were the picture of marital bliss. You'd never guess that beneath the surface, the structure was hollow, rotted from the inside out. I dried my face and stared at my reflection, trying to remember who I was before all this. Before I had to study my own wife's face like a stranger's. Before doubt turned into suspicion and suspicion turned into certainty. I didn't feel like myself anymore. But I knew who I needed to become, someone who moved with quiet purpose, not rage. That day, I took off work and drove to a notary's office with the folder of evidence. The receptionist looked at me funny when I asked if they handled document authentication for legal proceedings. She didn't ask what was inside. The notary stamped everything. Time, date, initials. No questions. No emotion. Just process. It was strangely comforting. Afterward, I went to the bank. Ashley and I had a shared account. 2 credit cards, 1 savings account. No prenup. Standard suburban setup. But as I sat across from the bank manager, I realized how many loopholes she'd been exploiting. There were multiple cash withdrawals in odd amounts, $300, $400, even $950 once, spread over the last 6 months. Most on Fridays. One transaction, marked Zanetti Boutique, stood out. I remembered asking about it. She said it was a gift for her cousin's bridal shower. Her cousin never got married. I called my sister that afternoon. Natalie was never fond of Ashley, said she had performative warmth. I always thought that was harsh, but now I got it. Natalie worked in corporate fraud investigation. I asked her if she could quietly look into any recent financial anomalies. I didn't explain everything, just enough to get her attention. Jason, she said after a beat, what's going on? I paused. Then flatly, I think Ashley's preparing to leave. Or hide money. She didn't question it. Just said, send me what you have. I'll dig tonight. That evening, I returned home to a candlelit dinner. Again, Ashley had ordered takeout from a Mediterranean place we used to love. She plated it like it was homemade. 2 wine glasses. The special night playlist on Spotify humming in the background. Her eyes sparkled as she poured wine, talked about a new show we should binge together. I matched her energy. I smiled. I joked. I complimented her dress. I was done being reactive. She didn't notice I hadn't touched my wine. Later, while she showered, I checked her purse. I didn't feel proud of it. But this wasn't about pride anymore. It was about truth. Her phone wasn't there, of course, but her wallet was. Inside, a small receipt folded in half, a deposit confirmation from a new credit union. Not our usual bank. Not even local. A checking account in her name only. She was siphoning. I took a photo and put everything back exactly as it was. By the time she came back into the bedroom, towel wrapped around her. I was in bed pretending to scroll through sports highlights. Early bedtime? She teased. Long day? I murmured. She leaned over, kissed my cheek, and slid under the covers. That night I didn't sleep. Again. Natalie called the next morning. Found the account, she said. Not just the one at that credit union. There's another in her maiden name, used maybe 3 times. Very recent activity. Also, a Venmo transfer from someone named Brandon Thomas. My stomach sank. Amount. $1,000. When? Last Friday. I didn't say anything. She knew. She's planning something, Natalie continued. This isn't just petty. She's moving assets. I thanked her. She didn't ask what I was going to do. That afternoon, I changed the alarm code to the house. Changed the garage keypad access. Logged into the Wi-Fi router and cleared out every device I didn't recognize. Then I reset every password. Utilities, mortgage, shared subscriptions, streaming platforms, even her gym app. It was petty, I admit, but it gave me control. Next, I removed her as a user from the family phone plan. Quietly. No notifications sent. When I went to bed that night, the silence felt different. Heavy, but somehow stable. Ashley didn't say much the next few days. She started texting more often, always facing away. Phone clutched like a lifeline. I didn't ask. Didn't peek. I didn't need to. One night, I told her I might take the kids to visit my parents for the weekend. Get a break from the city. She seemed relieved. Too relieved. Sure, she said. That might be good for everyone. I made the arrangements the next morning. Packed up some things. Reserved a guest suite for a few nights. Ashley didn't ask when I was coming back. She just kissed the kids on their foreheads and told them to behave for Daddy. The second we pulled out of the driveway, I felt like I could breathe again. The following day, I finalized paperwork with the attorney. Custody. Financials. Property division. Everything. She took one look at the evidence and said, "We can win this clean." I asked her to draft the filing with a default clause if Ashley refused to respond within the deadline. I wasn't playing games anymore. That night, I sat in the guest room at my parents' place, staring at my sleeping kids and wondering what they'd remember of this time in their lives. I hoped it wasn't the tension. I hoped it was just pancakes at Grandma's and trips to the park. They didn't know what their mother had done, and I didn't plan to tell them. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Ashley came back the next day expecting everything to be as she left it. But the key she slid into the front door didn't turn. She twisted the handle, tried again, then knocked. Once, twice louder. No answer. The porch light flickered to life above her head. Motion sensor. That hadn't changed. But everything else had. She stood there for a full minute, confused, maybe a little embarrassed, until she pulled out her phone. She dialed me. I didn't answer. Her voicemail came through 2 minutes later. "Hey, I think there's something wrong with the lock. Can't get in. Can you call me back? Please." I didn't call back. Inside the house, I stood near the kitchen, watching through the side window as she paced on the porch. Her voice muffled, her posture growing tighter with every second. She was dressed casually. Jeans, a hoodie, hair in a ponytail. No makeup. The picture of a wife coming home from errands. Except it wasn't her home anymore. I had already moved the kids' essentials to my parents' place. Had their beds rebuilt, clothes organized. School notified. Their teachers were informed of a temporary custody shift due to a family matter. No drama. No spectacle. I made sure Ashley wouldn't see the transition. No emotional outbursts in front of the kids. No confused questions about why Mommy wasn't coming with us. Just a sleepover that turned into a weekend that turned into something longer. She knocked again, this time banging harder. Then she paused and looked around. She noticed the nameplate beside the door, the one that had displayed the Martinsons for the last 5 years. It was gone. In its place was a clean brass plaque etched with just the word private. Took her a second, but then she understood. Her voicemail changed. "This is insane, Jason. You're being vindictive. I have every right to be in that house. If you don't answer me in 5 minutes, I'm calling the police." I played the message twice. Then I texted her, "Check your email. Legal instructions were sent an hour ago. I suggest you read them before doing something reckless." She saw the message, didn't reply. 3 minutes later, her car pulled out of the driveway. That night, I received 3 more messages. The first, calm. "Jason, let's talk about this. There's no need to make it harder than it already is. Please." Then one that tried guilt. "The kids need their mother. You're hurting them more than you're hurting me. Don't do this to them." Then, finally, a simple, "What do you want from me?" I didn't answer. There was nothing else to say. The next morning, I had her remaining belongings boxed and sent to a secure storage unit. I paid for 3 months in advance. She'd received a key code and a catalog of the contents. Jewelry, shoes, books, photos, some personal keepsakes. I didn't throw anything out. I didn't break or burn or vandalize. I wasn't here for revenge. Only clarity. I'd already transferred the utilities out of her name. The mortgage was frozen under a temporary status pending divorce. Joint accounts were closed or split down the middle. The family phone plan now listed me and the kids only. Her number, once saved under Love Speech Balloon, was now simply Ashley Legal. I even reset the garage door opener and the Nest cameras. That house, our house, no longer belonged to both of us. And on that first night with her locked out, it felt hollow, not satisfying, not empowering, just necessary. I sat in the empty living room, lights dimmed, the silence pressing against the windows like fog. I wasn't happy, but I was resolute. 2 days later, the formal notice was delivered to Ashley via email and physical mail. The divorce filing, the property division plan, the full list of evidence, photos, metadata, timestamps, financial logs, every text with Brandon. It was presented like a case file. Professional, clean, undeniable. She responded through an attorney the next afternoon. The first thing they asked for was a private meeting. I declined. "This is not a reconciliation process," I wrote. "This is a legal transition. If your client has objections, she can raise them in court." That night, her lawyer called mine and asked for a sealed mediation. No press, no family, just parties present. My attorney relayed the request and asked me, "Do you want that?" I said yes. Not because I wanted privacy for her, but because I wanted to look her in the eyes one last time before I erased every trace of her from my life. The mediator date was set. 5 days later. Neutral ground. No kids. No theatrics. In the meantime, Ashley tried again. A handwritten letter arrived. No envelope. Just folded and left in the mailbox. I found it while taking out the trash. "Jason, I don't know how we got here. I know I hurt you. I was scared. I was lost. I made a huge mistake and I know that now. But I'm still me. I'm still the woman who stood beside you when you built your business, who held your hand through your dad's funeral, who painted the nursery when we didn't even know if we could have kids. I messed up. I know. But please don't erase me like this. Let's talk. Not as enemies. As parents. As people who once loved each other. Ashley." I read it once. Then I placed it in the file folder labeled Communications. Nothing more. No fire. No tears. Just paper. The day of mediation came like a weight I'd been carrying for months, even though it had only been weeks. I arrived early, suit pressed, folder in hand. My attorney nodded at me as I sat down across the polished wooden table. A few minutes later, Ashley walked in. She looked different, older, almost. Not physically, but in the way someone does when they've run out of justifications. She avoided my eyes at first. The mediator gave the usual spiel about neutrality and confidentiality. Ashley's lawyer leaned forward, trying to take the offensive. He mentioned emotional confusion, a lapse in judgment, and asked if we'd consider mutual reconciliation efforts. I didn't even blink. I slid the folder across the table. Screensh *TS. Timestamped images. Financial records. And at the very bottom, a recording audio captured by accident where Ashley whispered something into Brandon's ear. "He'll never find out. Jason still thinks I'm working late. Her face drained of color. She opened her mouth, then shut it. Her lawyer looked uncomfortable, flipping through the pages. The mediator glanced at me as if silently asking, "How far do you want to take this?" I answered without speaking. The custody papers followed next. My attorney presented a pre-filed request for primary custody, citing emotional instability and deception. We had documentation. Child services had already been looped in for procedural review. Nothing criminal, but enough for concern. Ashley finally looked at me. "I didn't mean to destroy us," she said quietly. "You didn't mean not to," I replied. Her voice cracked. She didn't argue anymore. There was no room to. Everything was exposed. Our last meeting wasn't in a lawyer's office. It was at the courthouse. Simple, procedural. She walked in alone. No family, no friends. I was seated on a bench near the exit with my sister beside me and the kids waiting at a relative's nearby. Ashley looked at me like she didn't recognize the man in front of her. Maybe she didn't. Maybe I didn't either. When her name was called, she moved quickly through the motions, signatures, confirmations, surrendering keys, final declarations. No eye contact. No drama. Afterward, I stood and walked over. I handed her an envelope, thin, silent. Inside was a single printed message from her to Brandon, the one with the hotel room selfie. She didn't open it. She didn't have to. She just said, "I'm sorry." I nodded. "I know." Then I turned and walked out. She stayed behind, alone on the steps of the courthouse, staring down at her hands. No car waiting. No home to go back to. No plan. As I walked toward the parking lot where my kids and my sister were waiting, I felt the strangest thing. Not anger. Not sadness. But closure. For the first time, she wasn't my wife. She was just someone I used to know.